Ladies and gentlemen from beyond the great waterfall, welcome. I am Atlas Pleiades. Recently, I have been combing through the Taygeta archives and realized that quite a lot of documentation is incomplete. So today, I thought it would be best if we took a brief look over what we know about the Divine Dragon Church of Lugunica, as I suspect it likely has possible ties to the threat that we know as the Witch Cult. Before we get started, I just wanted to quickly mention that this video will be much shorter than the last one, at least hopefully. Seeing as this video is just a short discussion and speculation about the Dragon Church, I won't be quoting nearly as much evidence as I did in the Alice Flugel video, simply because I'm not trying to put the nail in the coffin of a certain theory or, even fully give my own direct theory with a whole lot of evidence, but more so just do a little bit of speculation and theorizing in a more relaxed environment, if you will. Seeing as Arc 10 is only just getting underway in the Japanese side, yes, Jake Z has already uploaded a couple videos of new Arc 10 chapters. I have not read those because they are not, at least at the time of writing this and voicing it, the Arc 10 has not come to Witch Cult translations in English quite yet. So, even though I know Chapter 2, according to Jake Z's title, does have some relevance to the Dragon Church, I'm not going to be going off of that, and this is basically going to be a raw speculation that was basically supposed to follow up Arc 9. So, without further ado, I think we can just jump right in. Oh, one more brief thing. Anime onlys, once again, this isn't really a video for you. At first I thought it was, but then I realized I do have to spoil essentially a big plot point that we get revealed in Arc 9. So, click off unless you're okay with spoilers. Okay, now into the Dragon Church. So, what even is the Divine Dragon Church? We don't know much, but at the very least we get a brief bit of text that explains what they are in Arc 9, in the very last chapter. Quote, "The name Miklatov had raised, the Divine Dragon Church, was, as the name implied, a religious group that worshipped the divine dragon Volcanica, founding their faith in the grace of its power and the protection of the Covenant." So, basically they just worship Volcanica. That's about all we really get. They do appear in the visual novel ReZero: The Prophecy of the Throne. However, I haven't played that yet, nor is it even considered canon, for now, anyway. So, for as of the current moment, I won't be covering any information from that game. So, with the Divine Dragon Church, we see that someone, claiming to be Filole Lugunica, addressing the Council of Wise Men in seek of protection for the church, seeing as the only really other bit of information that we get involving the church comes from wanting protection due to them having some sort of unspoken rule that essentially acts as the separation of church and state. The church and the Kingdom of Lugunica would act separately and work within their own domains and fulfill whatever roles that they wanted to fulfill, separate from each other, essentially. The church would not get involved with the nation's politics, and the nation's politics wouldn't get involved with the church. Pretty standard stuff, honestly. Other than that, we really don't know much. However, Filole Lugunica, in quotes, being the one to seek this already raises a couple red flags involving the Witches Cult. So, almost immediately upon the final chapter's release, and seeing this golden-haired, red-eyed priestess, supposed priestess, or more so, or nun, I guess, of the Dragon Church, claiming to be Filole, that immediately rose a massive red flag. Because, of course, earlier in Arc 9, we found out that the actual identity of Filole Lugunica was, spoilers, of course, for Arc 9. Please click off now before I say the name. Please. Okay, you've been warned. Spoilers from here on out. We learned in Arc 9 that the actual identity of the woman named Philole, or Philore, depending on your preferred reading of the name, Lagunica, was actually Felt. So, if Felt is Philole, then obviously this is a fake. And immediately people jumped on the idea that it was likely Capella, which would make a lot of sense, seeing as she already can shapeshift and fake being another person. Then yeah, most likely this is Capella. I mean, she does have the blonde hair, golden hair, whatever, and red eyes already. So she already fits that criteria anyway. So there's already a witch cultist, an archbishop to be precise, that has involvement with the Dragon Church. It's just more so the capacity of that is in question. We have further evidence as well of the witch cult being involved with the Dragon Church, at least I think, because I was rewatching ReZero in dub this time around a couple weeks ago when my ears heard the word church during the flashbacks in Arc 4. And so, what was that? When Regulus and Pandora attack Elior Forest, we see Juice say that essentially they have no jurisdiction to even be in the forest at all, and that if they have a problem with that they should take it up with the church. At the time, when I saw Season 2, and even when I read the light novels later down the line, I genuinely thought nothing of this because I didn't know anything about the Dragon Church, and I bet many of you are in the same boat. But when I heard that in the dub, I had to do a double take, now that we know that the Dragon Church does exist. So, let's assume, for right now, that the church Betelgeuse, or Juice, was talking about at that moment in time is the Dragon Church. That immediately puts signs that the witch cult seems to have had involvement with the church. And so, that brings me to a few questions. The first one is, how does the witch cult operate within the church? We see Pandora call Juice Bishop Juice, or Bishop Romani Conti. So that's different than being an archbishop, and at least from what I've found in research, an archbishop is typically a higher rank than a bishop in a church. So, A, Juice is of lower rank, and B, Regulus, at the very least, at that current moment in time, outranks him until Juice takes in the Sloth Authority, which is when Pandora is the one to promote him to being the rank of Archbishop, as well as naming him Betelgeuse, if I remember correctly. Okay, I just quickly double-checked both the anime as well as Volume 14, and I was correct and incorrect at the same time. In the anime, she does not promote him, directly anyway. She does grant him the title of Sloth in her name, or rather in the name of the Witch of Vanity. However, in the light novel, she does then start referring to him as Archbishop Betelgeuse Romani Conti, rather than Bishop Romani Conti. So, she, at the very least, in the light novel, promotes him to Archbishop. Editor Atlas here. I should have triple-checked the light novel. It actually never calls Juice a bishop. Even Fortuna calls him an archbishop. However, I almost wonder if the intent was for him to be a regular bishop at that time. With the way the scene plays out, especially in the anime, it comes across more like Juice is not quite as high of rank. The anime specifically even calls Regulus Archbishop literal moments before Pandora arrives and calls him Bishop. So it wasn't some mistake on the scripting end of things, it seems rather intentional instead. Hell, it isn't even a translation issue. because Pandora's Japanese VA calls him Shkyo, while all the archbishops introduce themselves as Taizai Shkyo. So there's clearly an intentional difference there in the original script as a whole, and it wasn't even a translation issue. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. I don't know if this was maybe an anime retcon or not, as of course we don't really know. I know the light novel's supposed to be the most canon, but I do find this particular situation really strange. So do with that what you will. I'm gonna still just let what else I was saying continue, because I still think it's an interesting thing to talk about regardless. But yeah, there's that little correction for you guys. Sorry about that. Another small thing here to note before we continue this a little bit is that in the light novel as well, Juice says, how'd you even find out about this place? So there seems to be some form of chain of information of who should know what, and apparently he was meant to keep the forest protected in some way, or, you know, at least this was supposed to be a very private thing amongst his group, a private mission of some sorts as a bishop, separate from Regulus and Pandora. And interestingly enough as well, when Pandora shows up, both Fortuna and Juice immediately show aggression. I don't want to get too into this because I'm going to save that for when I just directly talk about the witch cult on their own. But this paints a picture that Pandora is someone to stay the hell away from, and we can tell just by their interactions that Pandora has done something in the past that has seriously warranted this aggression. And even in volume 14 specifically, it seems that Pandora has a bit of a reputation for doing something awful, because Juice says, is this not too cruel even for you, Lady Pandora? So she seems to have a reputation of doing cruel acts. But it's not entirely clear if Pandora is directly involved with the church or not. However, it does seem to be hinted at, seeing as she does promote him to Archbishop, at least in the original version of the story, which is the light novel, and I assume at least the web novel likely has that as well. I think that was just potentially a mistake on the anime end of things to call him Bishop still rather than Archbishop. So this implies that Pandora has some sort of higher rank within the church that would grant her the permission to give others promotions in rank. Therefore, this implies that at this moment in ReZero's history, the witch cult has a pretty firm stance among the Dragon Church. At the very least, if it is to be believed that the church Juice is referring to is the same as the Divine Dragon Church. So this all leads me into the next question, arguably the most important one we should be asking here. Was the Dragon Church infiltrated, or was it always a front for the witch cult to begin with? If they were infiltrated, how did that happen? Was it by force, using their authorities? I mean, it seems that it would be pretty easy to infiltrate the church, honestly, with all of the authorities available to them. Specifically, wrath, gluttony, and lust could all be used pretty effectively. It already looks like lust is doing it to begin with, seeing as Capella's trying to pose as the missing Philole. But that's not all. She could easily transform herself into one member or another to potentially spread rumors or lies or whatever disinformation that she may want to sow to sway another higher ranking member's opinions of whatever's going on. So she could easily be used in some sort of manner to spread any form of a disinformation campaign amongst the church. Wrath could be used to sink the church's members' emotions, and while that may not be permanent, depending on the occupancy of the witch cult within the church, it could potentially, her authority of emotional manipulation could be used at the very least to get the ball rolling And we don't fully know the extent of Sirius's authority, so, you know, if she maybe dials it back and uses her emotional manipulation more subtly, that, at least in my mind, could potentially have a higher impact of convincing someone that that is their real feelings long term. Of course, that's just my own little headcanon of potentially how her authority could be used on a smaller scale. But add on to gluttony. Gluttony could erase anybody who opposes the witch cult's view of things to begin with. If you combine sowing a disinformation campaign in one way or another with manipulating people's emotions and erasing anybody who disagrees, it doesn't sound like it would be that hard for the witch cult to infiltrate by force. However, they may not have even needed to use force or any of their authorities, really. They could have simply argued against the dragon's utility in an attempt to sway the church's faith. After all, Volcanica hasn't been active for a prolonged period of time due to him becoming a dragon husk. They could have argued that the people or the church were betrayed or abandoned by the dragon, that the dragon has failed them, essentially, much like how Krush has tried to argue it during her campaign for her royal selection business. And in that case, the witch cult would actually be honestly right. The dragon hasn't been active for who knows how long. We aren't given a specific time, as far as I'm aware anyway, of when Volcanica became the dragon husk. I may have to reread Arc 9 to clarify that a little bit further with Klein. But as far as we're aware, and as far as the people of Lagunica are aware, the dragon hasn't done jack shit for quite some time. And depending on how long that period has been, the more likely that argument could work on its own without any need of a manipulation. Of course, though, if we combine the two of using this argument alongside the authorities, let's be real, the Dragon Church doesn't stand a chance of sticking to itself. I mean, Capella could just transform into somebody of more influence within the church and essentially run this disinformation campaign by actually using this logic of the dragon abandoning the church. So that alone already would have a lot of weight. Combining that with, like I said, Wrath manipulating people's emotions potentially, and Gluttony erasing anybody that says otherwise, I mean, the church would be cooked, let's be real. So I only have a couple more questions here. My final questions, once again, relate to time. How long has the Dragon Church been around? If it is indeed the same church as the one Juice refers to in the flashback of Arc 4, then at least it's been around for a little over 100 years, seeing as Amelia was frozen for a full century. Following that, how long have they been compromised, I guess we could say? Has it been 100 years? Has it been longer, shorter? I'm guessing at least the same length as the 100 years, due to, again, the witch cult seemingly being involved with the church as far back as when Pandora and Regulus attacked Elior Forest. But yeah, these are questions that we're not going to have immediate answers to, especially because Arc 10 hasn't even really gotten fully underway yet. We're only just starting. However, I just wanted to pose these questions and kind of speculate for a few minutes, quite a few minutes it looks like, about the Dragon Church and its connection to the witches cult. Because in my mind, I've always like thought the witches cult was weird as like this just being this terrorist group. Why aren't the archbishops more integrated into ReZero's society? They would be so much scarier that way in a sense, because if they were, you know, members of the actual important figures within ReZero's world, no matter what country they'd be potentially a part of, they would feel like so much more of a threat. I mean, we see a little bit of that, and I do mean a little bit of that in Season 1 with that one guy of Arlem Village that actually was a witch cultist, which he may not have even been a part of Harlem really, but just blended in with the crowd. But we do see in side stories that at the very least at some point in time, about 50 years before ReZero's beginning, that the Emperor of Wallachia was the Archbishop of Pride. So I always thought that they would be scarier if they were actually incorporated into some form of heavily influential group or multiple influential groups throughout the world of ReZero. But now we're seeing they seem to be deeply involved with the church, which, let me just say, that's really cool. I'm really happy to see that somewhere along the line they got involved with a major aspect of the world. But also, what does this mean for the future of ReZero? How far is the witch cult's influence? Because depending on how far the church's influence is, then that would determine how far the cult's influence is. So just kind of food for thought about the future for ReZero, as well as at the very least the future for Arc 10 and how that's going to get involved with what is likely going to be a massive disaster in the capital due to the church already trying to manipulate the actual like wise council of Lagunica. So yeah, this was just meant to be more so a brief video because Arc 10 seems to be shaping up to be quite the interesting arc already. If we have basically the witches cult in disguise, basically trying to manipulate some of the most important people in the major country that the story's focused in. And if the capital's about to go through some disastrous event, which, you know, many have speculated already that we're gonna have a massive Archbishop breakout, which if that happens, and then, you know, the Dragon Church also has some form of protection from the government, as in what I think is going to happen is that the Lagunican government's not going to be allowed to get involved with the disaster, then Arc 10's shaping up to be a really, really fun arc. And yeah, this was, like I said before, this was just some food for thought, a fun little speculation for the upcoming arc of ReZero, and to express how excited I am that ReZero continues to be peak fiction. So, yeah, I guess this is the end of the video. I don't really know how to end this one. This was kind of more of a throw together idea that I had as after, you know, rewatching ReZero in dub. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate all of the feedback I got off of the Alice Flugel video. That felt really nice. I appreciate everybody that left a comment and all of the kind words you all had to say. Thank you for the support. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it kind of got you thinking for the future of ReZero, like I said, as a whole, and for the next arc. So, the Al is Subaru's brother video is also still coming. I haven't started on it yet, but it is going to be a thing. It's just a larger project, and I am juggling another YouTube channel at the same time. So it's gonna be a minute before that gets out there, but one thing that will likely come sooner is a discussion on the witch cult. So thank you all for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next ReZero video I put out. Talk to y'all later. Bye.